I've had my eye on the Stanley Parable for a while. I caught a glimpse of it over on GT Live years ago and instantly wanted to play it for myself. Unfortunately though, $15 on Steam seemed a bit pricey, and besides this was a couple of years ago, my PC probably wouldn't have even been able to run it. Well, since then, the Stanley Parable has popped back into my consciousness a few times, but honestly the price kept me from ever pulling the trigger. Well, a couple of weeks ago, I'm on the Epic Games Store checking out the new weekly free games, and what do I see if not the Stanley Parable? For free! Awesome! But wait, I'm thinking, this seems like the kind of game that you really need to play with achievements, but the Epic Games Store doesn't have achievements, so am I even going to be able to play this? Well, I went ahead and booted it up, and would you look at that, they included achievements in the actual Epic Games release, so I guess this version is just fine to play. Let's give it a look. In the Stanley Parable, you play as Stanley, a boring office worker with a boring office job pushing buttons all day. One day, however, after realizing that he hasn't been given any instructions all day, he gets up to find the office completely empty. All of his coworkers are gone. From here, the story plays out as narrated by the narrator, revealing a short yet tantalizing plot about mind control and free will, ultimately ending in Stanley dismantling the mind control machine and escaping to safety and happiness. The screen goes black, you grab an achievement for beating the game, and you're right back to the start again. Well, that sounds boring, says you, not knowing that I might have slightly misrepresented what happens during the game. You see, there are several points throughout the story where you're given the opportunity to disobey the narrator. Like when you come to a set of 2 open doors. The narrator instructs you to go through the door on the left, but there actually isn't anything stopping you from taking the right door. At first, the narrator tries to gently correct you, but as you stray further from his intended path, he becomes a little bit less understanding. Yeah, it's one of those games with a funny narrator. If you've played Portal, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Basically, the narrator is just a straight-up jerk when you aren't doing things his way. I think the most impressive thing this game does is manage to complete my dark meta-humor Venn diagram. And from here, the game gets super meta, including everything from an in-game museum that chronicles the game's development to a second narrator that narrates the original narrator to playing entirely different games. It gets really crazy really fast, and you never know what to expect from moment to moment. There are also a variety of different endings, 19 to be exact. These endings are achieved in a variety of different ways. Of course, there's the true ending, where you disable the mind control facility and escape to freedom, but there's also an ending where you accidentally set off nuclear bombs, or an ending where you wind up intentionally trapped out of bounds. There's even one where you straight up fall to your death. My favorite is the art ending. The only way to achieve this ending is by playing a baby game for 4 hours straight. What is the baby game, you might ask? Well, it involves a cardboard cutout of a baby slowly making its way towards a fiery death. To save the baby, you'll need to push this big red button for 4 straight hours. But that's not all. You see, starting about 2 hours in, you'll also be expected to keep a puppy from being lowered into a pit of piranhas. This requires the pressing of course, another button. It's totally worth it though, because at the end you get to have a brief conversation with the actual spirit of divine art itself. So what about those achievements I was talking about earlier? Well, they start out looking pretty promising, with achievements for beating the game for the first time, getting the freedom ending in under 4 minutes, and of course the infamous click on door 435 times achievement, which sends you on a wild adventure all throughout the office to click on stuff. Unfortunately from there though, there really isn't much else to do. It feels like a missed opportunity that literally every other achievement is just given to you for something stupid and random instead of actually relating to gameplay or the story. I mean, there's an achievement for spamming the spacebar a bunch of times, even though it doesn't do anything, an achievement that you have to turn on in the settings, one for pressing the 8 key on a keypad 8 times, and one literally called unachievable that you just get randomly by playing. In my opinion, these achievements are pointless at best, and some of the most annoying types of achievements in existence at their worst, like the one you can only get by running the game for an entire Tuesday. It really doesn't help either that after just a little bit of playing, I started to lose my motivation to explore. See, even though there are a plethora of different endings to the game, there's no real incentive to find them all, and what's actually even defined as an ending is pretty vague. Some of them require you to manually reset the game yourself or take place over multiple playthroughs with nothing to let you know when it's actually over. A lot of the time it just feels like you play until you stop playing and then you start over, with little rhyme or reason to when that actually happens. What this game desperately needs is some way to track the endings you've already got. They don't have to spoil anything, it could just be 19 question mark boxes that slowly fill out as you unlock various different endings, just to give players some way to keep track of what they've already done. You all know me, I'm a very reward-driven player. Basically, for me, it's hard to find motivation to do pretty much anything in a game if there isn't something in it for me at the end. It doesn't have to be some cool new unlockables or tons of extra content. Literally just an achievement or something as small as filling out a spot on the pause menu is all the encouragement I need to get to work. I understand that every player is different. Some people have no problem playing a game just for the fun of it, even if the game chooses not to acknowledge their progress, while other players aren't content with something as admittedly unimportant as an achievement for a difficult task they spent lots of time on. There are very few negative reviews for this game on Steam, but almost every one I read seems to echo my sentiment exactly, that there isn't really a lot of game here. There's nothing to collect, no objectives, no challenges. Really all you do the entire time is walk around waiting for the next dialogue box to pop up. This game really feels more like an interactive comedy sketch. I mean, sure, it's funny, but I don't think it's as funny as Portal, and that game had gameplay that defined a generation. Do you really think we would have still enjoyed Portal as much if, say, instead of solving puzzles, you just walked from test chamber to test chamber, listening to GLaDOS talk and occasionally stopping to look at something? Of course not, and that's pretty much what this game is. It also doesn't help that this game is just insanely, obscenely overpriced. I mean, I'll admit, I have a pretty low standard for what I consider overpriced, especially on Steam. But $15, that isn't even like in the ballpark of what I'd be willing to pay for this. Honestly, I think they'd be pushing their luck at $5. Seriously, what's here is decent, but it's nothing you can't just see in a YouTube video. Do people actually stick around for these outros? I bet they don't. It's a shame too, because without watching the outros, how are they going to know that they can like the video, subscribe to my channel, follow me on social media, and comment all for free down below? I really love hearing from people and bots discussing whatever I talked about in the video a little further. Oh well, I guess there's always next time. I guess that's about all I've got for you. As always, thanks for watching.